All right, is God's existence incompatible with evil? The presentation of this says that an omnibenevolent God would want to eliminate evil, so that makes sense. All good God would want to eliminate evil. He would not desire for evil to exist. An omnipotent God would be able to eliminate evil, which makes sense. If God is all-powerful, he would be able to. Nothing would be keeping him from this. Yet when we look at the world, we see that evil still exists. And so the way the argument then goes is that God is willing to eliminate evil, but not able. Therefore, he's impotent. God is able, but not willing. Therefore, God is malevolent, meaning he's lacking goodness. An omnibenevolent and omnipotent God must therefore not exist. All right? Maybe he's omnibenevolent, but he's impotent. He desires it, but he's not capable. Or the flip side on it could then be, he has the power, but he's not actually good. Maybe he's neither. Maybe he's one or the other. But clearly both doesn't jive with the existence of evil in the world that we see and experience. And so how does a Christian respond to this? This has been billed the number one, most recurring and difficult question to answer for the Christian by many different books and bloggers, and it's just really out there and very prevalent. I think it's because pain and suffering and evil, they're all universal experiences, and obviously to answer suffering and to answer pain, that would be different from addressing evil. They are in a way separate, but I think they're all pretty similar, but this video will just be looking at addressing evil, and I'm using 3 responses given by Kenneth Samples in his book Without a Doubt, chapter 19, which addresses this question. So the first response for this one is the following. The truth of the first 2 statements is open to question. Why? If evil and suffering can produce a greater good, it seems reasonable to conclude that an omnibenevolent God might not necessarily desire to eliminate all evil and suffering, at least not immediately. All right, and I put there 2 Peter chapter 3, so I think I need to go ahead and turn to that and share with you how the Bible actually addresses this, which is amazing to me. Virtually every question that we bring up, God does address. We just need to know the Bible to see how it applies and fits. But here we go. Starting in verse 8 of 2 Peter chapter 3, it says, "But do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything in it will be laid bare. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. The day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. But in keeping with this promise, we're looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth, the home of righteousness." And we know that those who have not repented, as it says in verse 9, they will perish. All right? And so why is God not already bringing about this destruction of all things in this world? Because he's waiting for more people to come to repentance, to come to salvation so they won't perish. If he were to eliminate all pain and suffering right now in an instant, in a snap, everyone who does not already have faith will be lost forever. And so we may sit here and go, God, why are you allowing this to persist? Why are you allowing us to still suffer in this way? We're questioning him, right? If you promise this, if you're capable, if you're able, if you desire, please end the suffering and evil in this world. And we may look at it as God is, dallying in meeting his will. We could even question that he even exists, as the Bible reveals his character and nature to be, because it's not happening now, right? And so our problem is when he's going to bring about this destruction of evil, bring about justice. And the simple basic point is, because we're all evil, he would have to destroy us all. And so I'm thankful that he's patient with us, And the key is he's not being slow, he's being patient. All right, so can you think of any examples where humans do this, where they allow suffering to occur if they know it can produce a greater good for some individuals to suffer for a time? Because that's exactly what God is doing. An example I guys with parents. Do parents allow their children to undergo pain and suffering, and why? And it's because they know that it will ultimately bring about good for their children in the long run. If you know those people whose parents have kept them away from all pain and all suffering and done everything for them, those people usually are not very skilled in life. And when their parents are completely away from them, they really suffer, right? Because they haven't had the maturity to learn and grow. So God may then have a good reason for allowing pain and suffering for a time if we can do that towards children that we love. Maybe God can then also apply that to us. And just remember, of course, He is God, we're not. So we're not going to be able to fully grasp and understand the whys He allows for everything in this life. It may just not be something that we can personally grasp. All right, second response here. Because we've been created morally responsible and with the ability to think and reason, God has chosen a process of eliminating evil. Because to keep us as beings with some degree of independence might require God to allow us to commit acts of evil. Do you agree or disagree? The argument on this one goes essentially that if God did not create us as morally responsible beings and did not give us independence and the ability to choose evil if we so desired, He essentially would have just made us to be robots. Another analogy I like is video games. But is God a puppet master? Are we His puppets? Or are we morally responsible beings with the ability to think, act, and reason? And if we did not have the ability to think, act, and reason, what would be lost in this life? Would you even enjoy life? I mean, freedom is something that most humans hold very dear. We even say it is a right, that humans inherently possess this right. And again, I would move in to say, if we're not created by God, if we're just here by natural causes, by evolutionary processes, why do we have any rights to anything? We're just here by chance or by fluke. By the winds of time, we've emerged. There's no ground for us to even have a right to freedom, but we value freedom, and with that freedom we can also then have love. If you strip away freedom and the right to choose right from wrong, you also then will be removing love, because if God just forced us to do certain things, we wouldn't even have the ability to love, because love involves the decisions of two party members, and it's willfully, right? So if it's forced, if you're forced to love someone, is that love if you're being forced? I would say no. Eliminating wickedness, even for God, may not be an immediate and painless task. Question here is why? Why would this be the answer? And for this, we can look to the person and work of Jesus Christ to see why. Jesus, of course, took on flesh, being God Himself, considered equality with God something that couldn't be grasped. Made Himself nothing, right? Taking on the nature of a servant, as Philippians 2 says, be made in human likeness. Yes, God in the flesh, that He lowered Himself out of humility. He took nails into His hands, even though He Himself was innocent. He died one of the most gruesome deaths in history. Another interesting thing I heard someone say recently was, in all of history, this time with the Romans and crucifixion, it was the most gruesome, vile, inhumane form of execution in mankind's history. And this is the time that Jesus of Nazareth, God Himself, said, I'm going to step in and take this. He could have came, with lethal injections and the electric chair, but no, He said, I'm going to go through this as a sign to you, so you can see what I'm willing to suffer for you, for your good. And so when we look at this, God could have snapped His fingers and eliminated all evil instantaneously, but He didn't choose to do so. Instead, he chose to save us, and being a good and just God, this meant and he had to go through this process in the person of Jesus Christ. And so through his life, death, and resurrection, he was able to bring salvation to all of us. And so evil and suffering may be necessary for the greater good of humanity and may lead to the greater glory of God. This would be the concluding remarks to this for this video. And of course, there are many, many more answers that can be dug up and how to respond to this problem of evil that we see in connection with the existence of an all-loving and all-powerful God. So I'll make more videos for that, and hopefully you enjoy them and continue to learn and grow. And I look forward to any comments you want to give to me on these videos or any questions you have to ask.